to our podcast, Dr. Diaries Adventures to Ireland. I'm your host, Graham. The aim of this podcast is to showcase doctors' relocation journeys to Ireland. So whether you're a doctor interested in the move or just curious about life in Ireland, this is the podcast for you. Now, let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dr. Diaries. Today we are joined by Ninnette. Ninnette, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today.
Hi Graham, thanks for having me. I'm Ninnette de Klerk. I'm a GP with special interest in aesthetics, and I've been in Ireland now for almost 3 years.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for coming on. Tell us about your journey from start to finish. And I know your journey is going to be of keen interest to a lot of Safas, because it was not just you; it was your partner and the whole crew. Three kids that followed. So bring us back to SA before Ireland was ever an idea in your mind.
Yeah, so I have a husband and 3 kids, and we were living in Pretoria. We met and lived there from university. So we got to a point where we decided that we want to give the kids a safer environment, maybe a bit more opportunities in future. South Africa, although we love the country, is a little bit uncertain in some ways. So we were starting to look into different options, and it was actually a Facebook message from you that triggered the whole island move for us. I have a few people that that I'm friends with who moved before us, and watched their Facebook, and I commented on how beautiful Ireland was in one of their posts, and you said, well, when are you coming? And that's when we started looking at it. I had my own practice in Pretoria, so I did more aesthetics, and I was a bit reluctant to come over to go back into full-time GP. And then I saw a post where you advertised aesthetics post, and that's where it all started.
Yeah, amazing. And again, there's so many others. That's why Facebook is a great outlet, isn't it? Because so many other Safas who are documenting their journey here, and it just gives people back home in SA a bit of a glimpse into what life could possibly be like for them here too. So.
Yeah, I think we all know that what you see on the social media isn't always the full picture, so you have to be but it was good to see kind of what the good side of the move, and see that people are happy and the things that can be done and achieved, and it just opens up channels to talk to people as well. The amount of messages in Messenger you get, or even on Instagram, from people wanting to know how did you do it, are you happy, give advice on certain things. So I think definitely the world is open at this stage, and social media is a great way to just get information from people. And that's how our move started. And again, I reached out to a few doctors that I knew was in Ireland before we made the move, to chat to them and just see how they find it, and are they happy.
Yeah. And tell me, because the whole family unit came with you, what did your husband and the kids think following our first initial chat, and you came to them and said, I think we should move to Ireland? What was their initial thought?
Yeah, so obviously me and Derek had long discussions about this beforehand, and Derek worked for Eskom in South Africa, so obviously he wasn't always that happy in his so for him it was an opportunity as well, because it's a critical skills visa. He can come over, and there's opportunities for him to look for, and he can work as well. So it was a kind of fresh start for him in that sense too. The kids, I think a lot of people think that the kids will struggle, but I think involve them in the process and talk to them openly and discuss possibilities and be honest with them. They were very on board from the beginning. Although my son was a teenager at that stage, and people often ask me, how did he adjust? It was, I think, just because he knew what to expect and we were open and honest with him from the start, he was fine. And they adjusted really well into the whole Irish system, and they are very happy. He said to me the other day, just don't ever tell me we're going to move again. We're staying here. So they are happy and settled, and they enjoy. I think for the kids, the biggest thing in Ireland is the independence they can have, especially at the ages that my kids are at. They can move around on their own without us holding their hands literally wherever they go. So they love it here. They're very happy.
Amazing. And I believe from your Facebook activity also big fans in the house of Dancing with the Stars, Ireland's answer to
Yes.
those reality or celebrity dancing shows.
Yeah, well, the reason why we were such big fans is I met Laura in clinic just after I actually arrived in Ireland at an event, and we've been kind of in contact since then, and it was nice to also see her career evolve over the last few years in Ireland as well. So she's become a friend.
Big
That's
Laura
right.
Fox fans
Big Laura
in
Fox
the
fans.
household. Yeah, amazing, great. So we might, if it's okay with you, we might jump into the job itself as working as an aesthetics physician. Tell us about Ailesbury Clinic firstly. That's where you're at the moment.
Yes, I am. So Ailesbury Clinic, we do a lot of aesthetics and dermatology, medical led aesthetics. So it's been really a big opportunity for me career wise to be in the clinic and to learn from Patrick. Anybody who's in aesthetics has heard from Patrick Tracy. So it was a really big opportunity to work with him and to learn from him. When you are talking about aesthetics complications, Patrick is one of the first names that probably come up, and being able to see that side of the aesthetics and work with him has been amazing. And the whole clinic, we are a little family and we're very happy. It's been really good.
Okay. And how does aesthetics compare now to where you are versus what you were doing back in SA?
I think the Irish community and the South African community, when it comes to aesthetics, is actually very similar. You get people who are very open to aesthetics and who will be very open about what they are doing, but you also get the very reluctant people who don't want people to know what they are doing, and who take a more conservative approach to the aesthetics. And I found the same kind of in South Africa. It's so I think it's very similar. But it's also a growing industry in both countries, I think. It's definitely evolving, and even in the 3 years that I've been here, it's grown massively, and it's a really booming industry, and very nice community. The aesthetics community in Ireland is really good and supportive, and it's been really nice.
Amazing, yeah. Like you say, it is definitely a massively growing space.
Yeah.
I think what's you'll be able to confirm this. What's unique, particularly within Ailesbury, is that there aren't too many clinics that are physician led. That a lot of other places might be technician led, but whereas yours is led, as you say, by yourself and by Patrick, both trained physicians.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest adjustment for me initially coming over into aesthetics in Ireland, was the fact that it's not a restricted part of the where you only doctors and dentists can do it. It's anybody can actually do a course and do some of the treatments we do. So that was definitely an adjustment because it opens up and it causes a lot of other problems for the industry, and
Sure.
like I say, complications that we see in Ailesbury. It definitely has its pros and cons, opening up the industry to everybody, and that was an adjustment. But I think you will always have the places like Ailesbury where we are doctor led, and people will seek out those places as well. If they do their research. So that was it was definitely an adjustment. I think that's a big difference between South Africa and Ireland. The fact that in South Africa it's only reserved for doctors and dentists, and over here you have to your community is much wider.
Absolutely, and I'd say a big differentiator even within the Irish market that
Yeah.
it's doctor led. Can
No.
you take us through what, if you can, and you can withhold whatever you wish in terms of your typical day? What does that look like as an aesthetic physician here in Ireland?
So yeah, the first thing that was actually a really great thing from working in Ireland is your very calm mornings. Our
Okay,
mornings start much later in Ireland, school and work and everything. In South Africa, everything is kind of up and running by 8 o'clock in the morning, whereas here it's around 10. So um, we have a much calmer, more relaxed morning routine,
yeah,
getting the kids to school, and then I go into work. In the clinic, we have our appointments. Basically, I'm in clinic from 10 to 6, and we have our lunch break. And in that time, I see a great variety of patients, from skin, medical, dermatology, and then obviously the aesthetics as well. So a typical day will have a mix of all of those kind of patients, and it's depending on what you do. Obviously, the amount of patients you see during the day differs as well.
and can I ask if you can put a rough percentage on it? What's the numbers of sort of women versus men that might tend to come to your clinic?
Aesthetics wise, it's still mostly women.
Okay.
You there, I would probably say it's 80, 90 to 10, 20% split. It depends. But then with the dermatology, it's roughly almost 50-50. And some days you'll see more men than women. We see a lot of patients with acne, rosacea, psoriasis, those kind of skin conditions. And those can sometimes be more in men. So with in total, I think it's very balanced, but with the aesthetics, it's definitely still more women.
Interesting. Okay. And I guess if there's someone watching this, wherever they might be across Europe or in other parts of the world or back in your home country of South Africa, and they had a similar background to you, family medicine background with an interest in aesthetics, what career advice, if you were to give one piece of career advice to them, would you give in terms of breaking into the aesthetic space in Ireland?
I think just educate yourself as much as you possibly can. I did a 2-year diploma in aesthetics in South Africa still.
Yeah.
And now recently completed a dermatology diploma as well. So I think just educate yourself and set yourself apart from other people, because the industry is open to everybody.
Yeah.
The only thing we can really offer is that medical knowledge, and that sets you apart from the salon around the corner who's also doing fillers. So I think it is just educate yourself, make sure you have the knowledge to set yourself apart from everybody else.
Okay, really sound advice. Thanks for sharing that. We might delve into a few quickfire questions now to test your how ingrained you are into Irish life. I don't think if you're watching Dancing with the Stars, I think you're very much part of the Irish makeup. But tell me, obviously you're living in Dublin, but where in Ireland would you call your favorite place?
Well, to be completely honest, I've my first 2 years in Ireland, I did not travel a lot, and when we did travel, it was for a family thing back in South Africa. So, it I haven't seen everywhere, so I can't
Okay.
be. It's not a very educated answer, but my
Sure.
favorite place thus far has been Donegal. It's
Yeah.
beautiful up there, and we are actually going back up there in a week or so. So, it's
Amazing.
beautiful, and it's a really lovely part of the country.
Yeah, it is one of some of the widest selections of amazing beaches. It's just unfortunate
Yeah.
it gets also the probably some of the worst weather
Worst
in
weather.
that part of the
Yeah.
country.
I
Yeah,
did almost blow off a cliff by with the wind when I was there, but it's lovely up there. It's really beautiful.
yeah. So warning for anyone going up that direction: watch
Yeah.
out for that wind.
Yes.
Very good. Favorite Irish celebrity? Dare I say, is it Laura Fox, or do you have someone else in mind?
Well, Laura definitely is number one on my list, but then I'm also
Yeah.
a Bridgerton fan, so I have to put
Okay.
Nicola in the mix there as well.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Nicola is waving the Irish flag everywhere she goes now. She's an
definitely.
amazing ambassador for Irish arts across the world. Yeah.
Yeah,
And are you up to date with latest Bridgerton season
I
two?
am. I am up to date.
Well, very good. We're not going to go and jump into that because I'm not. So we'll leave that for another day. Um, Tell me, in terms of your sort of favorite Irish phrase or slang, was there anything that maybe when the family first came here and thought, like, what the hell were they talking about?
Well, that's the one piece of advice I can definitely give anybody is Google is your friend. Whether it's Google Maps or just Google a phrase or even just how to pronounce a name,
Yeah,
Google is definitely your friend when you move. So I think in the beginning, the first one obviously that I had to Google was what's the crack? I was that was one that I was like, what are they talking about? And so that's definitely a favorite. And then grand has to be on the list as well. Everything is grand in
yeah,
Ireland.
grand.
And yeah. And then the other one, I was doing a aesthetic show, and one of the moms from school saw me on stage, and she said, you played a blinder today. And I was like, okay, I've no idea what that means, but thank you. So that's been a favorite of mine as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's a compliment for anyone listening. Playing
it's
in
a
a blinder.
compliment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I had
You've
to Google
done
it,
well.
but it's a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Great. And I guess, like you said, you've been here for quite a while, close to calling Ireland home, but I'm sure
Mm.
there's still very much home comforts that you miss every now and again. Is there anything that you ask family to bring over when they're visiting, or you ask them to send across that just remind you of Pretoria?
Of Pretoria. Well, if we have anybody coming to visit, the first thing on our list is my husband's KWV brandy, because you
Okay.
can't find a good brandy in Ireland. So
That's very
that's
controversial now, Ninnette. Coming out with a line like that, back it up. Is this brandy just some mysterious sort of mixture that makes it the best out there?
I don't know. South African brandy is just different. Apparently, I'm not a brandy drinker myself, but it keeps him happy. So that's always first on the list. I think
Yeah.
the South African wines and the brandies is just we're from the winelands. It's just something different. So that's always first on the list. For me, I always around Easter want my Easter eggs. There's a specific marshmallow Easter egg in South
Okay.
Africa that you can't find here. And then we South Africans like our coffee and rusks or tea and rusks, and you can't really find rusks anywhere in Ireland. So that was on the list initially, but I've become a good baker recently, and I make my own rusks now. So
Amazing. Okay.
you adapt and change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard of the famous Easter eggs, and I've also heard of the famous rusks. So I've
yeah.
yet to get my hands on them, but you never know. You might delve into that space of delivering South African treats to the growing South African community here
Yeah,
in Ireland.
there is a lot of places actually, so it is possible to get those kind of things here. But in the beginning, our first time we went back to South Africa, and the first time people came to visit, the list was much longer. But then you adjust and you adapt, and you start to use some of the Irish things and replace things that you were used to in South Africa. And now the list is a little bit shorter.
Very good. So, yeah, family
Certain
members'
things will
bags are a
stay.
little bit lighter, let's say.
Exactly.
Yeah, very good. And I guess, if you were, and your guys' stories are relatable because a lot of doctors will be moving their entire lives, and that does involve, in a lot of cases, other family members. What piece of advice would you give to another family similar to yourselves about moving across to Ireland?
I think the biggest piece of advice is, like I said, just be open as a family, talk to each other about why you're doing this. If you don't remember why you are doing this the hard times will be harder. So you have to keep reminding yourself of that. It's not always going to be just perfect, and it's literally not always greener on this side.
Yeah,
It has its ups and downs, but if you are together and stick together as a family and remember why you made the move, it makes it easier. And then just do your research, make sure you know exactly where you are going, depending on, obviously we are in Dublin, so it's there's a lot of places rurally that will have different costs of living and all those kind of things. So just make sure you know what you are letting yourself in for, and just be prepared. And it's if you are prepared for the good and the bad, then it just makes it easier to adjust. We all know that it's not perfect anywhere in the world.
yeah,
Doesn't matter where you go, there will be certain things that you don't like as well. And if you come in with an open mind and know of that you will face things that probably won't be perfect, it makes it easier to adjust, and it makes it easier when you do face some of the challenges. Um, Ireland is lovely and the people are lovely, and it's really not been a hard move, but you do miss the family back home.
sure.
So that is the biggest the biggest adjustment is being so far away from the family. And like I say, other things you can find, yeah, that's similar, and you adjust. But I think the hardest part is that. So but people come and visit, and just make the most of those visits. And we are in a time where you can literally do a video call any time of the day and talk to people. So it makes it easier. It's possible to keep in contact and still see people. And but if you're prepared and you know that it's going to be difficult at times, and you prepare your family for that, it's easier to adjust when it does come around.
Absolutely. And best part, you can get a braai kit now in your local Lidl or Aldi. So that'll bring the barbecue memories back home to
Well,
where
as
you are.
South African, we've had barbecues literally in the snow, so we make it
Yeah,
work. Doesn't matter where what the weather is.
yeah.
I
You're
think the
embracing the
weather,
Irish barbecue as well, where there's bound to be an umbrella seen somewhere over a
yes.
barbecue.
Exactly. Now, and I think the weather was a big. We knew the weather was going to be a adjustment,
Yeah,
and it's not. It really is, especially when you think it's going to be summer and it never comes around. You,
yeah. You're feeling
it
our pain, Annette. You're feeling
yeah,
our
I'm feeling
pain.
your pain. I read this morning this was the coldest June in almost a decade. So
Yeah,
summer definitely is not coming our way just yet. But again, we prepared the kids for it. We made sure we all knew that that was going to be the situation. And in the end, you adjust and you make it work.
yeah. And you come
Yeah.
with that raincoat because you never know when
Yes.
you're going to need it.
Yeah, what do they say? There's no bad weather. It's just bad clothing. You just have to
That's it.
dress for the weather. Then you're
Yeah,
okay.
you can hold on to that, and then you go to Cape Town, and it's 30 plus degrees on a sunny blue sky day. Either way, like you
Yeah,
said, I'm glad you bring a very real, open eyed view to that possible move, because
mm,
there are challenges, of course. It
yeah,
isn't an easy move, but there's enough people making this move because there's enough of a pull to come across to Ireland. So
yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing your point of view on that. We'll finish up on you telling us what's the best part for you and the family about living here in Ireland.
I think, like I said earlier, the the freedom you can experience over here.
Yeah,
You don't realize how on high alert you are constantly until you don't have to be on high alert anymore.
yeah.
Um,
How long did
it's
it take you to adjust to that when you came here first?
No, it takes a while because we are so
Yeah,
used to always kind of looking over your shoulder and
yeah,
being on high alert and holding on to the kids and holding on to everything. So I'm not saying it's perfect. I mean, when I walk and I'm on the Lewis, even I'm still closing my handbag and being cautious, because
sure.
it's still a possibility everywhere.
Yeah,
But I walk at night when it's winter and I work my late shift. It's dark when you get home, and I'm walking from the Lewis to the house, and you're not scared at all. I think that freedom and just walking around and being able to walk around without being living in fear, that was the biggest positive for us. And I think my kids are growing up much more independent than they would have been in South Africa.
yeah,
And that's a big thing for them. We went back to visit, and my son, after a week or two, was like, "Can we just please go back? Because he can't go anywhere alone. We have to be with him, and it's just a different lifestyle in that sense.
yeah.
That the freedom you can experience here is something you will never have back home. So that's the biggest positive for us. Um, and then I think just for me, career wise, it's been an amazing move. I think when I got into the South African aesthetics industry, it was a little bit further evolved than and I came in from the bottom. And then when I came into Ireland, I think I caught it on a in a good time at a good
Yeah.
time. And it's been really good for my career in the aesthetics. So it's been a positive move for us
Amazing.
all around.
Thanks
Yeah.
so much for sharing your story, not just yours, but the whole family's story. And I know that there's going to be people home in SA or across the world that are going to be able to relate to that. So thanks again for joining us on the Dr. Diaries podcast this week, Ninnette.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you very soon.
See you soon.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you like what you heard today, please follow wherever you get your podcasts. Want to kickstart your relocation journey? Reach out to the team on our socials at Matchmates.